Perfect. Well. Right. Onegaishimasu. Okie okay, so welcome to this another workshop. This one actually came from an idea from Roland. So he's to blame. If it all goes wrong, you can blame Roland. So this one based on the idea of working from the ground up, or especially really working with the idea of grounding. But we're going to work it in a few ways. So the kind of obvious way to work is work from actually the way the system's kind of built, the way our system's built is working from kihon static training to flexible training to then fluid training. So this is the kind of system we've got already, and we'll kind of work with it. So we'll start with the first set, working with not necessarily standing postures, but more kind of static postures in 3 or 4s. But the first idea is this idea of how to generate power from the ground. So we'll look a little bit at some kind of alignments. The second one, going into movement or taking to movement, is really about shifting weight and looking at the floor as a kind of looking at anchor points in the floor, on the ground, and obviously connecting the body in movement and coordinating the different parts of the body. So we'll look at that a little bit in a second. And the third, looking at mobile, looking at being in a dynamic state, so in constant movement. The main thing with all of this is that it's really related, although there's like technical aspects to it, it mostly relates to this idea of feeling, so generating kind of feeling states in the body. And we'll use this idea that Osensei had, where he talks about different states of the body, or different states of using the body, and use like visualization images for this. And the first one was this idea of like diamond, like hard. He used this phrase like to be as hard as a diamond. So we use these kind of images as we go through as well, because they start to kind of change the way we use the body. But the first little bit, we'll do not so much a warm up, just kind of in this idea. It's kind of the idea of this is like setting up the frame. So it's like standing basically on your own 2 feet, basically. So we'll use this kind of Seitai exercise that we're used to. We'll use them in a little bit of a different way. So what I want to do first is just stand with the feet. It sounds really easy to start with, but just stand, get a nice comfortable position. Go about shoulder width apart with the feet. Just kind of stand. So the first exercise we usually use is this kind of up-down motion. What I want you to do is just play with making the body rigid, tense, really everything tension up. You can come up onto the toes if you feel that's kind of what's happening as you kind of tense it up. But just feel you can kind of slowly tense up the whole body, including the neck, the chest, the arms, back of the body. And then just play with slowly releasing it back into the ground. So just play with kind of coming in to tension. Try and tense up all the body, so every part of it. Front, the back, the neck, the hands, the feet. And just play with releasing it. So just hold it like 5 seconds going in, and then 5 seconds kind of release it. Just slowly kind of pulsing in and out from rigid. And then relax it. So you want to just make a real contrast between the body in a kind of a rigid state, and where you might feel that your body's getting kind of pulled out of the ground. So as it kind of pulls out, really rigid, tense, and then the opposite is where you relax and you want to feel the whole weight of the body drop into the ground. Pull. So it's this feeling here, the image here is like what's always used in martial arts is like a tree, like deep roots in the ground. So what you want to is that the feeling I use is like plugging into the ground. So you want to feel that the whole feeling of the body goes underneath the ground. So it's the difference between being on the ground when you're tense, kind of floating on top of it, the whole body's kind of rigid, isolated from the ground, and then this idea of sinking and plugging into the ground. Okay, Tina. So that's it. Good. Okay, perfect. Okay. Now, what you want to do is find somewhere in between. So you don't want to be rigid, and you don't want to be hard, and you don't want to be like loose, like this. What you want is like kind of tensile through the body. So it's like taking the slack out of the system. So what I want you to do is keep the feet kind of glued to the ground and just have the sense of lengthening all the parts of the body. At the same time, keep that relaxing. So there's space in the joints. You don't kind of lock out the knees, lock out the arms. You want to feel the space, but feel that there's a kind of tension through the body. That there's a kind of natural tension that doesn't come through, pulling the body, just that the tissue's kind of lengthened up. So it's really working the up down still. Just let the weight of the ground kind of move through the body. So it's this feeling of the body just kind of switched on. You want to feel all the parts of it. If you feel there's any empty spaces, you feel there's kind of maybe one side's more full than the other. Just work on kind of filling it up. And just notice how the weight's been shifted into the ground and exactly where you are in the feet. Just notice. Don't try to change anything yet. Just notice where you're kind of standing in relationship with the ground. Let's notice the neck here. So that sense of length through the spine. And again, the feeling's really like creating space through the whole joint. So letting everything drop down into the ground, but at the same time, lengthening up. Good. That's it. And then what we'll do is we'll just work through the joint. So this is a kind of working from the ground up this way. And you're going to work on like stacking the joints into the ground. So you want to eventually come to a point where everything just sat on the ground. Okay, so just start with the ankles here. So you're just moving the ankles. And you just want to feel again, the main thing is how they're connecting to the ground, how the feet are connecting into the ground. So just play with them a little bit side to side, a little bit up and down, front to back, kind of rocking the weight on the foot. And again, you just want to feel that the body from the top can just sit onto the ankle. So obviously, if I have a misalignment in the ankle here, it's going to cause all these kind of ripples up the body, which will kind of destruct or take me away from the ground again. So just playing with the ankles, very slight movement, side to side, front to back, rolling the ankle a little bit. And just look for the point. The main thing to look for is like, if I go to this position, I've got a lot of tension in the ankle. The main position you want to look for is like comfort, whether you can just relax into the joint. Again, it stays open, relaxed. And then just do the same, passing it up a little bit into the knees. You've got mostly in the knees like front to back movement. You've got a little bit of side to side give in the knee, just a little bit. It's just going to come from the ankle. But just imagine how you can. The main one here is the sense that the knees can be over the toes or back and kind of straight out. So again, you just want to find that kind of sweet spot where the knees just hitting the middle of the foot. And again, the feedback in the body is like whether I've got tension in parts of the body. In this case, when I go to that position, you get a lot of tension in the knee. I go to that position, I get a lot of tension in the knee. When I go to that position, I can just hold it there. Just sits on top. So. And then do the same thing with the hip. So just gently pulling it out. Front and back, got a lot of movement in the hip. And again, just find the point when you can just feel that it just stacks on top. So. Obviously, if the knee goes out or the ankle adjusts, it's going to kind of affect everything else. So just keep that sense of stability. Ankles, knees, as you do it. And again, the test is, this is really like, also this idea of the diamond is actually a nice picture because it's also got this idea of precision. So what you want to do is be really precise with it, which in the case of standing is actually quite small movements will really affect the whole structure. I'll spend a lot of time in standing postures. They're also really good because you like to really feel very subtle adjustments in the body will have a big effect. And then again, next major joint is just the shoulders. So the main thing with the shoulders is feel that they're really sinking, settling to the side of the body. So the main posture you see now is like front, where the shoulders get drawn to the front. We spend a lot of time in that kind of posture, which automatically draws me to the front. At the same time, I don't want to be too open. I don't want the shoulders kind of pull back. Again, it's going to create a lot of tension in the shoulders. So the best thing is just feel that they're going to kind of sit at the side of the body. Just subtly shift them. And you just want to find that space where they're just able to hang, settle. And you can just let the arms hang off them. So you want to feel that the arms just settling off the shoulders. Last one, main one is the head. So just kind of gently shifting it. Okay, you've got a lot of movement in the head. Again, just notice that the shift in the head will really affect the whole posture. So if I hang the head to the front, it's going to pull me forward. Hang the head to the back, it's going to start to pull me back. The best thing here to think about is like lengthening the neck, but putting a little bit of like feeling the neck out this way, so that the kind of nape of the neck becomes kind of full. And the main thing is this idea that it's really an extension out from the spine. So if I distort the neck, the head position, it's going to separate the head from the spine. So just feel that the spine's kind of included in that. Now that image that's often used, this idea of like being pulled up with a string, the extension from this that I like is like a candle. Imagine a candle with a wick through the center. The wick's the kind of center line for the body. The rest of the body you want is kind of melt down from the wick. So just have this feeling, it's not only like you're being pulled up by a string, the whole body just sits onto that center line. So the frame can basically just relax that way. So there's no unnecessary tension. That's the main thing with this exercise. And I'm saying this a little bit further. Not so much like the Seita exercise, we'll do them in a different way. We usually use this kind of loosening the spine a little bit. What I want you to use now is for balance. So what I want you to start with big movements. The first one is this front and back. So we've done the length of the spine. Work the front and the back, which is basically pulling the shoulders out of the body. And what I want you to slowly just look for the center line. So you're looking for that same feeling you just had. There's no kind of slack in the system. Everything's kind of taut. And you just want to find the middle and then just do a few. So you start big. Again, notice that shift in the shoulder will adjust all the sense of weight and balance in the body and will take me away from the center line. And then make it smaller, 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 and just let it settle into the body and into the ground. So again, the main thing is just be really conscious of the contact with the ground. Make it big. Make it smaller. Look for the middle. And the good thing about the middle for us is that it's really a position I can relax into. So it takes very little effort to kind of hold the frame in this position. So if I hold the body here, again, lots of effort goes into it. Not really noticeable where we're in movement, so this is why the static postures are really important because they allow me to find the middle. Good. Next one, going side to side. So again, just sway the body, start in a kind of big motion, and then just start to let the body find the middle. Yeah. Good. And then again, just notice the main thing is notice if there's any kind of parts of the body that's either tense or over tense or just drawing your attention. It might be an injury or it might be something like that, but main things are feeling of weight. So here I feel the weight shift into the left. I'm stuck in the left foot now. And adjust it and that. Hit the center basically. So you make it big, and you want to basically hit the same point every time. So you just allowing the body to sit into the structure. Boom. You feel like in a way like sitting back into an object. So the whole structure can go like, oh, boom, relax. So next one, we don't really do in the Seitai, which is a circular movement. So you're just going to let the upper body circle out. Circle out. And then again, just wind the body in so that you can gently find the center, find the middle. Wind this in both ways. You're basically taking a circle. And just listen to what's going on in the feet now, the connection to the ground. The closer I get into the center, the more the weight spreads into the ground and the body can root and settle. So really simple work. Useful to find the middle. One more time. Big circle. Circle. Last one's a kind of tricky one, which is working this open and close position. So you're going to close the body out, open it, start with this kind of wave motion, and then again, just allow the body to sit into the middle. This is really bringing them all together. We've not done the rotation work. We'll come into that in the next one, but just allow the body to kind of roll through that motion. And just find the middle. Make this really big. Make it smaller. And just looking to find that middle position. So good. That's it. Okay, good. So we'll go to the main idea of the frame now, which is the shoulders and the hips line up together. So what we're going to do is you're just going to split them away from each other. So keep the hips facing the front, don't move them. Keep the weight in the ground here, and then just gently going to shift the shoulders. Don't go too forward, don't twist against the spine too much. They're about a 45-degree angle. You just want to feel again the shoulders shift out of that connection, and you feel there's tension through the body, and then shifting back, and then slowly feel where the shoulders just settle into the hip again. Just split them, create a disconnection, and let them wind back. It's really important now that the hips don't move. But create a split to then bring it back. Split them out. Pull it back. And then again, just make this smaller and smaller. So you feel it. You want to feel that. I want to know the feeling that is when the shoulders are splitting away from the hip. So that feeling, which can be really kind of minuscule in a way, that now the hips, the shoulders out and the hips back. So I want to feel what that, I want to know what that feels like in the body, so that I've got a really clear idea, again, of being in balance with the shoulder, or that frame basically working together. There and there. Now the body can hold it, but it hold it through tension. So it's going to inhibit the movement later. So just again make it smaller. You can let it kind of sway in and out of that position. And because we train a lot, especially in Aikido with unifying it, you might find this a little bit hard. The hips automatically want to be included, but try and lock them out of the movement. That's it. That's it. Now start really small, but feel that now the hip and the shoulder go together. So the best way to think about this is actually don't think about the hip and the shoulder. Think about the belly button, the navel, and the nose. And as you move this, that goes with it. So if the head's stacked on the shoulders, this will pull the shoulders out anyway. But really, really like imagine the line through the body here, and you just move it. Just move it. But then keeping now the hip, shoulders move together. So this like box frame goes one piece. What is one piece? That's it. So you can think shoulders to hips, or you can think like nose to navel. It really needs to go together. And yeah, as you're doing it, just notice what's happening in the ground. I shouldn't feel that there's kind of tension increase really with the feet. So that weight shift should basically stay the same. The knees are relaxed so that it allows that the weight to just shift into the feet. If you're feeling tension in the feet, it might be because the shoulders actually misaligning, or the hips misaligning or pulling back. So just notice. Obviously, if you take this really far, then the feet need to adjust or really adapt to that movement. So there's a point where you will start to generate pressure in the feet. But look for this position where you can just relax against the feet. Good. So, all nice and easy at this point. So, what I want to again, just set that frame, let the body be, you've got a little bit of tension through the body, not in the sense of rigidity, but just taking out the slack from the system. Now, have the feeling again, the shoulders, hips go together, you're just going to pull the arms out to the side. So, it's about now bringing the length through the arms, and again, what I want to do is the shoulders and the hips basically stack together, and that the arms can sit into that structure now. You just lighten them out, palms down in this case. And again, subtle shift in the shoulder now will really change that position. So if I bring the shoulders forward, while I let them come back, it's going to create a lot of tension. So you want to feel that the arms kind of floating on top of that structure. The same thing, just bringing the palms out and up. It's a little bit of a trickier position. And just look for the arms. So basically, the feeling's like they're sitting on the rib cage in a way. So the shoulders drop down. You can play with this by kind of raising the shoulders up and then just letting them settle back into the shoulder. As much as possible, keeping the spine neutral. And then we'll shift it now to the front. So again, just with the palms down to start. You might feel now the shoulders start to close out, so keep that sense of the shoulders staying back and sitting onto the hips. So again, I want the arms to kind of sit onto that structure. So I don't want to hold them up, I just want to sit them into the structure. A little bit of feeling of kind of reaching out with the hands, but not too much that I'm kind of pushing out. Gently kind of reaching for something. And then the same thing, just try with the palms up. A little bit tricky for the body, because it puts the shoulder in a tricky position now. But if I can keep the shoulder back and down, and kind of hold them out, it's fine. Good. So, perfect. And then the last one, just play with coming up. It's like you're reaching for the corners of the room. If you're outside, reach for something with the hands, the sense of extension out. And just let the body again, let the arms sit into the frame. This is a tricky one because now the tendency is to get pulled out. So go back to the feet, back to the ground, and work up through through the system. I need the knees to be in position, I need the hips to be in position, and I need the upper body to sit on top of it. Now you can use the breath in a way to kind of relax the body. You don't want to use the breath in a way that I'm releasing anything, but just that I relax in a way like the inside of the arm. So it's like breath out and relax. Keep that feeling of reaching out, but again, the same sense of sitting them back into the structure. Tricky. And try and notice the difference between sensation of like the arms might be burning, but I don't want them to be burning for tension. Like I'm holding them up, that's a different feeling than you're just in a tricky position and the arm's going to start to, it's kind of burn. But I want to basically sit them into the structure. Right, perfect. Just let them hang down, let the arms release, and just look for that structure nice and taut in the structure. Okay, I'm going to take this into a swing. So I'm going to come up with the arms and then just drop through the whole structure. The key thing now is really think about that. The shoulders, the hips, they go together. This is a tricky now because the hips are actually going back and the shoulders are going forward. So the tendency is for they split out. But feel that this, again, that box frame just pulls back, sits on top. So I still want to keep that alignment through the structure. It's really important now the arms can relax. Let's let them swing. Really conscious of the weight of the ground. And again, just notice if you get an increase in tension from the foot. There's make a difference also between weight being, the feet receiving weight and the feet going into tension. So in this case, play with also doing this wrong in a way. If I swing the body forward, I go into the front of the foot, the knee goes beyond the foot, and then I create a lot of tension in the lower body. So again, what you don't want to feel is that there's a change in tension from the foot, so that the foot goes into a feeling where it's grabbing the ground. You just want to feel all the time it's receiving like plugged into the ground. You just want to let the weight come down. I've split that box position while that one shoulder dominates. It's going to change change the alignment and basically take me out of the ground. So the key feeling now is the weight down into the ground. I want to be really precise again, and I always want to be in the middle of the movement. Which in these kind of movements, like the difference is like millimetric. So if I go a little bit there, then it's going to change everything. So I really want all the time to hit that sweet spot. Right in the middle. That's it. Great. That's it. Now, the same thing, do this with the hands together in like a prayer position. Do this really slow. So what you want to feel now is you come to the back and you want to really, really gradually bring the body down. So it's like you're sitting into it. And what you want to do now is really let the whole body go together. So what you're looking at is really, apart from making it a little bit trickier, really a coordination exercise. So I want everything to go together, together, together. And I want everything to go together at the same rate. So as you want to lock the body up to the top, and as you swing it down, you want the whole body to move together. So that whole frame's being adjusted. And the key thing now is feel that again, the weight entering the feet is moving the hands. So as the weight drops into the feet, the hands release. So first, this is like identical to our saw cuts. We're going to go there next, but so as slow as you can, keep in motion. And it's really easy to tell now as you go slow, if you start to increase the tension in the feet, the ankle or the knees, or even maybe the hips, just notice it. And if you feel that, just see if you can find a place where you can sit into it and equalize it. The main issue now, hopefully everything's in balance, it's just coordination. And the slower the better. Good. Now the key thing, feel that the lower body's driving the upper. So what you want to do is the foot, the pressure into the foot, into the ground, is generating the movement. So you can play with this also flexibly, like the down position is the easier position to find it because that's where the weight's the greatest in the frame. And then I just want to feel that I'm releasing the body, releasing the hands through that ground pressure. Through that ground pressure. Now imagine it's like a pump in a way. So I want the movement's going to start to go up to the knees. I increase it goes to the hips. I increase it, can pass into the shoulders. I increase it, and it can pass into the hand. You've got this kind of pumping movement again from the ground. And once you feel it, just start to take it a little bit higher. The main difference here is that the difference between the hands doing it, the upper body doing their own thing, and the upper body really being like a servant to the upper body, to the lower body, and the lower body falling into the ground. So this is the kind of classic kind of instruction from the Chinese arts about sourcing power from the ground, passing into the upper body. Good. And now just take it into a little bit of a more of a dynamic swing. A little bit faster. Don't try and speed it up, just let the weight drop. 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 So the key thing there, don't do anything with the hands that you're going to kind of push them out. just let them fall towards the ground. So again, the main feeling now is like gravity drop. So let gravity take over. Use the ground to push up. And just let them drop there. And just take it as fast as you can feel that I basically maintain the structure. If I start to feel that one side's kind of taking over, I'm losing the feeling, just slow it down a little bit. You can keep it in a kind of little bit of a more dynamic move. The difficult part about going fast, it gives you less kind of chance to feel what's happening with the body. So just be really aware now, especially again, tension in the feet. Feel all the time they can relax. So perfect. Perfect. Okay, take a bokken or stick. We'll just work with the bokken today. So just want to take something. So the same exercise now. The main difference is, it's a bit obvious, but you've got the right hand in front now. So the right shoulder's going to start to pull out a little bit more. See, the first few, just feel this position. Just sit the body, just sit the sword in front of the body, and just feel it again. Then I can kind of sit the structure back. It means that the left arm's just a little bit close to the body, the right arm's a little bit away. But I want to feel the shoulders kind of sit back. The body. The main thing again is let the shoulders spread. So I don't want to feel that the main thing that starts happening is I go into the sword where the shoulders start to close. And they start to kind of pinch, the structure at the top. So let the shoulders really sit back into the body. Chest open up. One thing you can also think is like the clavicle, this area is like coming up. If it ever is kind of going to a position where it's kind of coming down or away, I'm kind of crunching the structure. So think of this kind of coming up, pulling up a little bit. And just, if you want to start with this, you can start with the hands a little bit closer as well. So that you can kind of, the key thing is letting the shoulders sit back into it. But yeah, just take this nice and slow, like I'm really and middle speed, just swinging the sword down, really finding the back, and dropping into the ground. Again, so you've got a little bit more, or you've got a lot more weight in the position now. So the tendency is to try and counterbalance it with the body. Try and just let the sword swing, as if the sword's swinging independently. And I want to align the structure behind it. So you're looking for that swing, sword. That's it. Okay, good. Yeah. The first thing with this, don't try and add anything to it with the arms. So the arms now want to take over, but there's a tendency also with cutting works, I start to add into the arms. So the end of the I start to add into it. What this does actually pulls the shoulders forward, and then it kind of splits the upper body from the lower. So really feel that it's not that you augment a cut with the arms. Later you actually augment it with the weight of the body dropping. So you want to feel again that the power is actually going to come from the lower body and the ability of the lower body to connect to the arm. But it's not going to come by pushing the arm out in a way. So it's the difference like with the swing. If I do that, this is basically pushing the arm out. I'm trying to add into it. But just let the weight drop. You've got that swing. So it's exactly that same feeling, tricky now with the sword because the tendency is to try and add to it, but let it drop. Let it drop. So it's really that feeling that the sword just drops to the ground. Just drops to the ground. It will go there anyway, so I just need to basically align to that. So. Good. And again, as you're doing it, really notice again if you get shifts in tension in the feet or the knees. So again, you just want all the time the feet to just be receiving the weight of the ground. If they're taking tension, it's probably because the parts of the structure is kind of pulling out. So especially notice here like toes gripping or the ankle starts to pull out. You get tension, just let the foot receive it. As if it's spreading like roots into the ground. You want that all the time through the fall. Good. And again, just like we did with the swing, just do this real slow. So you really give yourself a chance to check. The key thing again is coordination. I want everything to go together, 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 together. Yeah. And then my hips stuck at the end of that. So really notice in this case, it's really easy for the hips to stop movement and then the arms continue. So really feel that the whole body together. Actually starts again with the shoulders and the hips working together. If the shoulders and hips don't work together, then I've no chance of connecting with the arms to it. So think lengthen up. Then go slow as you can stay in motion. You don't want to go so slow that it kind of frees the movement. Go. Slow in motion. Again, just constantly keep drawing back to the alignment with the ground. And again, the feedback for that is tension in the feet. So just allow the foot always to spread. Spread. Just feel all the time you're being received by the ground. Feelings underneath all the time. And again, just we did with the swing, just take this a little bit faster now, so a little bit more of a speed. Again, just the first thing is just notice where the arms start to push it. So again, let the weight just drop to the ground. So you're trying to align to the swing. Give a nice light grip. And it's basically a practice of not interfering with the sword now, just let it drop. Let it drop. Let it drop. More of a kind of full speed swing of the weapon now. And a little bit tricky now to catch those kind of changes in tension in the feet. Just keep that feeling spreading now. That's it. And with this exercise, really use something like a straight line that you can, or the straightest line you can find near you, and really allow the sword to trace that line. So that the feedback on this is whether I'm interfering with the sword, whether the sword's kind of wobbling down the line. So I basically want the sword to just pass through that center line. So you can do this obviously just by being aware of it, but it's easy to have the feedback. The best thing is a mirror. You can do it with a mirror. Or use a straight line and just kind of trace it. Again, keep the speed kind of moderately fast. And what you'll probably notice, I start to try and do it with the tip, do it with the hands. the more I do that, actually more I start to kind of twist out of it. So again, the key is like my alignment to the ground, my focusing of the structure through that line, and then I meet it with the sword. So it's actually about how you're aligning the center of the structure to that point, more than the tip of the sword. The tip will kind of follow that structure. So kind of clarify the movement by clarifying the connection to the ground and the alignment through the core. Okay, good. We'll play with taking this to the first degree. So you're working now with the right foot forward. Play with this. I know sometimes I'm kind of bringing the foot off and coming down with it. Play with the sense that you keep the connection with the ground. So you just slide the foot over and then slide it back. So you're keeping the sense that the whole body plugged in. So use that same idea now. So coming back and then shifting the weight forward into it. We'll do a few just with that kind of slide through, and then we'll take to the movement. Just allow the feet to stay in contact with the ground. So it's lightly, just let it slide along the floor. You might find it tricky if you're outside. So you just got to kind of adapt it a little bit, but just allow the weight to shift and down. Key thing now is you've got to twist through the spine. So again, focus on the hips and the shoulders, sitting in a frame. So that whole kind of box frame stays in place, doesn't twist out. That's that. Yeah, like that. And that's into plugging in with the ground into the feet. The feet in there. Keep that. Good, and then just start to play with placing the weapon. So just where the cut would terminate, that position. You just want to kind of finish that. So this to this, and just give yourself time here again. Let the weight settle down. I shouldn't notice a kind of the feet are clinching or gripping or kind of creating tension through the structure. That's the same thing that you kind of hear, and that the weight's just dropping down. So again, just playing with the feet, sliding forwards and backwards. But basically trying to maintain the structure again in the center all the time. This is nice because you've got this big column, and then as you go in, whoa, let the structure sit on top. Right, and then a few really slow, as you do it as slowly as again, you can keep everything coordinated. This is really tricky now, so much trickier to do than the standing position. So really consciously shifting the back and coordinating everything in. Much trickier now. But again, see if you can go with this. Basically, I'm going to try and go to speed where I can. Keep everything in motion. This is a really great route to notice again tension in the feet, especially in the back foot. Again, notice or try and make a distinction between weight shifting into the ground, the foot receiving, and the foot going into tension, trying to hold. And that feeling that you're always plugging into the ground. So you can take it slow as you can. And it's a nice one to increase it. Also do it with a heavier bokken, or do it with a suburi bokken, and do it slowly. So I'm just looking again, coordinating everything. Good. And then again, just going back to a kind of normal pace with it, just sinking into it. You probably start to bring the focus in now. You start to kind of increase the speed. Again, just keep that feeling again, plugging into the ground and letting the weight shift through the whole system. Again, really be aware of kind of tension creeping into the feet. Let them receive. The arm's going to want to start to try and take over now. Really let them be guided by the footwork. So the leg work's going to add the power on the ground, not the arms pushing in. So that all let the weight come in through the body. So just take it now like a moderate speed and a normal cutting. Good. So the feedback on my ability to settle now in motion or with the power generation is coming into the sword. So really be aware now. Again, use a target or something that I can clock what's happening with the sword, or I can see what's happening with the sword. So basically, what I'm looking at is whether the tip's basically dribbling, or maybe pulling up, or it's bouncing up at the end of it. And I'm looking. The feedback's going to really come from the sword because that's the most elastic part of the connection, the chain. So I really want it to ground through that motion. Ground through the motion. This is pulling up, pulling up. So really be aware of what's happening in the tip of the connection. Want to be flexible, but sitting into the ground. Sitting into the ground. Sitting into the ground. Okay, last week, just put the bokkens aside, just to finish here. So just do the same again. You're in a kind of prayer position with the hand. Just kind of release the shoulders and also just check the connection without the weight. So do the same. It's basically a variation on the swing and just the same as we've got with the sword. So you're coming back, find that position, and then drop into it. So you've got no kind of extra weight now in the hands. It's a kind of diagnostic, so I want to feel whether I'm kind of pushing with the hands again. So again, just let everything be led from the ground connection. Up from the ground, into the ground. Up from the ground, into the ground. It's just a nice way to kind of loosen out the shoulders as well. We're just paying attention to that frame from the hips to the shoulders. Separate. Separate. There's a kind of woodchopper swing. Right. Yeah. So the main part of this all this training is really to use those exercises to look for disconnection in the body. So what you're looking for, especially in this exercise, look for things like this happening, the hips pulling back before I do anything. So there's a disconnection in the sense that this is coming back and then I do it. Or it might be that the common ones that the arms go for, the arms go and then I do it. So what you're looking for is really like a unity in the body so that everything goes. Everything goes. So you want all the joints to act independently, but you want them to act together at the same time. So they're moving in a way which is towards their function, but I don't want to split any of them away from each other. Just like the elbows go, the shoulders come up, what that happens. Just notice it and try and go to a position where this is basically what you're looking for, is like integrity of the whole system together. That's okie dokie. Great. So we'll take a break here. The main thing with this is like these simple exercises are really great. There's a huge benefit of doing them. It gives me really a chance to kind of diagnostic through the body. The bad side of that is the same thing, that they're very easy. They don't put so much pressure on the body. So I get away with this idea that this connection is easy. And then when I go to complex stuff, I start to kind of come out of structure on this kind of thing. So they're good in a way that they allow me to connect the body, bad in a way that don't give me too much pressure to do it. So this is why the complex exercises have their own side, which we'll go into next. So let's bow out. We'll take like 5 minutes or so break. So great. Domo arigato gozaimasu.
Domo arigato gozaimasu.
Okay, great. So we'll take